Why don't you come on over here and sit down? Got to talk to you. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome. This should be played at high volumes. 3, 2, 1. Hey, Darcy, Felicia.
Hey, Cole.
Hi, Cole.
How's it going today?
Good, thank you.
Wonderful. Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, happy Valentine's Day. I get to spend it with two beautiful ladies.
Oh, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Man, I thought this was going to be a solo Valentine's Day.
Oh.
Thanks for reminding me that I do get to spend it with two beautiful ladies.
Oh, happy to help.
Yeah. So happy Valentine's Day to you
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
This is Darcy Harris, who's the
Executive
Director for Children First Counseling Center, and Dr. Felicia Holloway, who is the Clinical Director. Darcy leads us, and Felicia makes it happen. So
I try to.
and for me, counseling is something I've always been a big proponent of, because as ingrained as it can be, it's simply talking.
Right.
It's having a conversation where before someone wasn't, or that they're holding something deep down inside that they don't want to let go, and holding on to that, then it then comes out in other bad,
Otherwise
damaging ways. Dr. Holloway, could you kind of touch on that general concept for a second on what that is and what it means?
Yeah, sure. So with counseling, I think the main goal is to build a relationship with someone where you can feel validated, you feel like it's a trusting space where you can talk about things that may be difficult to talk about in other settings, and know someone who's unbiased and someone who really is concerned and cares about you, but also you know that it's not going to leave this room.
Right.
And so you can kind of work things out when there's an environment that's created by a counselor in that kind of space, because you have that trusting environment. So I think that's the first part of counseling, is that relationship with a safe person.
Yeah, no doubt. So I'm not trying to challenge you when I ask this. I hope I'm not throwing you off, but what's the difference between a good counselor and a good friend?
So, good question. I think the main part about a good counselor is a good counselor is going to be trained in some type of theoretical orientation. So that's some type of counseling process that gets you past a particular issue.
Sure.
So they're going to have some skill sets a friend may not have. And
Absolutely.
also, a counselor is going to have an unbiased, because we're trained to be unbiased as best we can, or to be able to check our biases in a way that allows you to feel like you're in a trusting environment where someone doesn't know all your history and they're trying to answer your questions before you even answer them, because, I know you did that 2 years ago and I know what that means in this moment. So a counselor doesn't have that kind of information and history, and we're trained to set all of those kind of biases aside and just be there for the client.
And I think that they run hand in hand. I mean, most of my friends are my semi-professional counselors, particularly the folks I go to church with, if nothing else. That's when you create a little bit more intimate relationship, I guess. But guys I've been running with my whole life, some of them I can talk about things. So I imagine taking it past that. You don't want to talk to your friends about X or Y, or hey, you've gone so far with them,
right?
You can't do that anymore. So I'm a big proponent of it. I took counseling as a kid. My parents were great parents. My brother went to A&M, is in the Air Force, Dr. Lieutenant Colonel Clay Humphreys. And then for me in middle school, I was in trouble all the time. I ran with some dudes that I shouldn't ran with, and it was just, in my mind, I didn't think I was like a bad kid. I was just having fun with friends and trying new things. And I didn't realize the damage I was giving to my parents acting that way. And I got in some serious trouble. And ultimately, we got into counseling. And it just took one session. And I just opened up to that counselor about things I didn't even know touched me emotionally, and I still got in trouble. I still did some things, but that was the change. It was the right turn. So one, thank you for choosing this field, and being a part of allowing some damaged insides to be healed, just by simply providing that safe space and such. So Darcy, since this is a nonprofit center, this nonprofit center has a board and community involvement, and also needs to have money.
That's right.
and so let's start there. I mean, start with kind of the role you take on as.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for your long time involvement with Children First.
Yeah.
I know you know this, but our audience might not know that you've been associated with our board in some form or fashion since 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Served as our board president in 2013 and part of 2014,
Yeah.
and then
I was traveling.
Yes, because work was becoming a bigger bear. You moved over onto our advisory board and have been a very faithful supporter of ours, and it means so much because it really does take a village to protect the kids in our community, to provide the funding for counseling, because this is not, just as Felicia Dr. Holloway just touched on, the difference between maybe sitting down with your friends as opposed to a professional counselor that's trained to provide that safe space and to not have any judgment.
Right.
It takes licensed counselors to do that, and most of our counselors come to us, and they're still paying off college loans and everything.
Well, and also
That's right.
this is we're conversing here, so I know a lot of our counselors, because they're nonprofit, are getting their required hours to be what.
Yes, we are.
Let's do
we
the
are
difference.
we are a training ground.
Ground.
We have fully licensed LPCs and LCSWs, but we also have some LPC interns who are licensed. They are licensed by the state of Texas, but they are still doing their supervised hours before they get to drop that intern off of their credentials. And then we also have a few practicum students from local universities. And
Wow.
I don't want to steal Dr. Holloway's thunder, because she can address those things
Sure.
better than I can. But
So let's keep on the community and the role that Children First plays.
Okay.
And
well,
the need.
The community is so important to what we do. We really couldn't provide services to near as many people annually without the community involvement. We do have some federal funding. We write grant requests, and we get money.
So grant writing in itself has to take a lot of time and,
it does.
and even a particular skill, right?
Yeah, as you probably know from being in city government, anytime the government and public funds are involved, there's a lot of accountability that has to take place. So there's quite a lot of reporting requirements for grants, and the grants themselves, the requests are pretty intense. And so we have 2 federal grants, and then but we get a lot of our funding from our annual fundraisers.
Okay.
And just people that are concerned, and maybe they donate through our donate page at childrenfirstinc.org,
Okay.
or they just want to help.
Well, I want to touch on that. So a lot of my enjoyment from getting involved in a nonprofit like the Counseling Center is you can make it a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Darcy has unending amount of work to do, right? But a lot of the work that she does provides entertainment for the community to raise funds, to do it, to pay the counselors.
I don't do that in a vacuum, as you know. I mean, we have a great board that is very involved in our fundraisers and our staff, and even our counselors get involved.
Yeah.
You know, and
So I'm gonna touch my explanation and then jump on if I'm doing something wrong or missing something. So, you know, we get X amount of dollars from grants, X amount of dollars from bigger charities, certain amount of money from insurance if they have it. But a lot of money comes from the community and fundraising, and so Darcy will then organize a golf tournament. Community members come together, pay a golf fee. Part of that fee goes to the Children First Counseling Center, and then they have live auctions and auction off fun, cool items that you typically get for less than their value.
yes,
And all of that, 3 or 4 at least programs a year go into counseling kids.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
we say kids. It's
But
a lot of kids, but it's adults as well.
right. We see anyone from the age of 3 and older.
Wow.
We've all been children.
Yeah.
We are children, and you know, have you know, maybe some of us have progressed farther than others, but
Yeah.
we see a lot of adults who are still, you know, dealing with things from their childhood.
Well, from childhood.
So, you know, I like to say that we're all children first.
Yeah.
But, you know, you touched on some things where community involvement is so important, not just the players and entry fees or attendees to our luncheon, but all the people that donate items that we can auction off or raffle off and that kind of thing. That kind of support is so important.
Well, and I'm finding too that a lot of those events, awareness. Just, I mean, if we didn't raise $1, just getting the name out there. I mean,
Right.
it's surprising so many people I talk to that don't even know. They hear the word children, right? So like, oh, they're raising money for children.
Right.
I mean, and that always just sounds good.
Right.
Well, and sometimes they don't even realize it's actually a counseling center where people go and literally get healed, completely life-changing.
Right. Getting the word out that resources are available.
Yeah.
You know, that help is available, and you know, our main goal is to remove the financial roadblocks,
Yeah.
so that people can get
You
that
come in
help.
the
'Cause,
doors.
you know, because
you're getting counseling.
$125 or $150 an hour for
Yeah.
service is a definite roadblock, and if it prevents somebody from making that choice to get help,
Yeah.
you know, we try to remove that roadblock.
Yeah, and that 125 you're referring to is a private practice.
Yes.
Professional, which all good. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it, and they can charge what they want, but that's the benefit of this service is
Yes.
It's affordable. And so what's the equivalent? I think we've gone over this before. What's the equivalent to 1 hour of counseling session?
What do you mean?
Equivalent. So
what?
how much does 1 hour basically cost? It's free, sort of.
Right,
but-
but we do. I mean, because these are licensed counselors that we're using, they're not volunteer counselors. They definitely deserve to get paid for what they do.
Yeah.
And I
And I'm not. I want to be clear. So, if I give, I'm not trying to ask how much our counselors get paid. That's
No,
private.
no,
But
I
I
know.
do want to know if I give $25, I'm essentially giving 1 hour counseling session. Is that accurate, or is that close? Do you think?
that is close to covering the actual clinical fee. It does not touch all the other things that
Yeah.
go into it.
Running an office.
Right.
Running a
Yeah. I
business.
mean, we do
Paying
have a
rent.
whole lot of other expenses that go into supporting their work.
Yeah.
So probably $68 to $70 probably.
Okay. So clearly, just about half the price.
Right.
And that's everything, right? So, Dr. Holloway, so I had one session, and I was healed.
Wow.
I'm healed. No, I'll argue that maybe I'm not completely healed, but it was life changing. What would you say his average session is? Our average amount of sessions for someone who's coming to the counseling center?
I would say that what I encourage people to consider is that it usually takes a certain amount of years or experiences to have the problem that's come up. So you want to consider that when you go to counseling and have that expectation that if it took 7 years for me to get here or 14 years for me to get here,
Wow.
not to have the expectation that in 3 hours it's going to go away. So to give the counseling process time. So I don't ever want to say there's a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But just to consider that and to give the opportunity for change to happen before you make a decision that this is not worth it. So,
Sure.
saying I'll commit to 5, 6, 7 sessions and see if things get even a little bit better is, I think, a good start when you're going to counseling. Yeah.
And now what I've enjoyed learning and seeing going on over there is the different types of sessions are different ways that have come about to help open the patient up, maybe. Can you kind of touch on some of that, or?
Yeah, sure. So,
and on top of my mind is play therapy.
Yeah.
Sounds so simple.
It sounds
really
simple. It does. Well, I think child-centered play therapy is one of the areas that is really effective for certain groups of children, and we train all of our clinicians at the counseling center on child-centered play therapy. The ideal is that children communicate through play. When you see a 3 or a 4-year-old, they're not likely to want to have a conversation with you for 45 minutes.
Right.
There are exceptions to that, but
Sure.
majority of them do not.
I was the one that would, by the way.
Okay.
I'll talk your ear off. Sorry.
Yeah, so most of them would rather you engage with them with a toy or bring out a ball and want to play. So giving children an opportunity to express themselves through play, which is their natural language, is the ideal of child-centered play therapy. So we do have all our counselors trained in that. In addition to that, trauma-focused CBT is an evidence-based treatment now that really helps those kiddos who are 4 to 17 who may have had a traumatic experience. And it tries to support that person in processing that actual traumatic experiences that's causing distressful symptomology in their life. So if they are having a lot of anxious feelings when they have similar experiences to whatever the trauma was, then that type of therapy has had a lot of research behind it that says it's most effective with kiddos in moving them past those symptoms.
Can you touch on what that is, CBT? I mean, one point is when play therapy, they're playing.
Right.
So what is it? What is this more of a?
So trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy is also a way of integrating play into therapy as well, except it's just more directive.
Okay.
There's definitely steps and components and a sequence that you go through in preparing the client to deal with kind of talking about and processing the trauma.
Yeah.
So getting them prepared, helping them to understand how to relax, ways for them and their parents to relate to each other, to support each other through that process of learning how to deal with stressful events, and then getting to the point where they can actually talk about that stressful event together with their parent and really process it and change some thoughts and beliefs about it.
Excellent. Can you, as you're talking, and that's what I want to express here on this podcast, so thank you. Tell me your qualifications. I said doctor,
Sure.
but tell me what doctor encompasses and how we got there.
So I have a PhD in family therapy, and I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor and a licensed marriage and family therapist supervisor.
And so those last two are like certifications, right? Like insurance, you can get a ICU or something. It's you go through extra training to get the certain designation.
Yes, so that's my state licensure qualification, and to be a supervisor, you have to go through additional training so that you can train and supervise other clinicians.
Okay.
So that's what's helpful in the fact that we do have practicum students and interns in our facility, is that they have someone who's trained on supervision that can help support them.
Yeah, so it's not just letting them go in there. You've got someone in there showing them how to do it or correcting if need be. Do you find yourself running around a lot correcting them, or usually get pretty good?
No, I interview who comes to our door.
So you know.
Yeah, and I'm
interview up front, less work in the back.
Yeah, well, I really look for practicum students, interns, and even fully licensed counselors who have a passion for the work, but also have a good sense of identifying how to move a client through change.
Wow.
And that's the difference between what you mentioned earlier, a friend and a counselor, is that a friend can help you kind of talk through what you're experiencing. They can be there with you. They can maybe give you a hug and comfort you. But a counselor is going to help you move through the change process.
Wow.
And so I want to see individuals come in who have a passion for people and also who have a good sense of, this is how I can see people changing their lives.
So let's say if you're the friend from day one of the experience, then it's likely a counselor is not needed, right? Like if something happens, and I'm trying to promote communication, right? And that I'm not trying to disqualify the need for a counselor, but potentially that'd be great, right? If counselors weren't needed. And so the minute a traumatic experience happens to me, if I'm able to immediately talk about it comfortably with a friend, although right then and there it may not be fixed, but you have that ongoing friendship relationship, potentially the person could make it and be healthy. Or do you think, regardless if they've experienced that type of traumatic experience, they need to see somebody?
No. I think that human beings are ultimately resilient and that we have capacity to do a number of things. There are people who go through traumatic experiences in all different kinds of situations, and depending on their support system, depending on just how their brain responds to that, they might not need to go to counseling at all. Right. So counseling is a opportunity or a resource that should be put in the bag along with all the other things you say. That a healthiest person is going to have maybe counseling as a resource if they need it, but they're definitely going to have a healthy social support system. That's the thing that I think is integral to any human being having kind of a satisfactory life, is knowing I have other people to connect with.
Wow.
And so with or without counseling, that's vital to a healthy life.
Yeah. And back to what I was saying. So if they don't have that friend or don't have that counselor, then is when it starts getting damaged. It starts coming out in other ways, whether it be physical, emotional, mental.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the person, they could have a great, healthy relationship with other people and still determine that these symptoms are bigger and harder to get past and I need counseling, or they might not have that relationship and that exasperates the symptomology and they really say, I need to reach out and have someone. But ideally, a counselor would want to support that person in making those connections if they don't have them, in addition to dealing with whatever the issue is they're having, because you want them to have a healthy support system.
And it sounds like, and I'm on board, I think everybody just about that walks on this earth probably could spend a couple sessions with a counselor just to make sure. You know, they could be exhibiting some type of behavior that they don't know about that stems from something that happened long ago. And it sounds like it'd be up to the counselor to say, oh, you're good, or hey, you might need to come in and dive in on this.
I definitely think mental health professionals need to be collaborative, because for some people, it's whether or not you feel like it's uncomfortable in your life or someone else around you has identified that the way we're interacting is really uncomfortable for us.
Wow.
Because just because you like black on your walls and I like yellow doesn't mean one of us is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just what works
Love
for you,
that.
right?
Can you touch on the difference between counseling and psychology? So like I need a psychologist.
Okay.
Or I need a counselor, right? So can you kind of...
Yeah. So I think that psychologists and counseling are pretty similar, and they have a little bit of different training, but the major difference that people might notice is the difference between maybe psychologists, counselors, licensed clinical social workers, licensed marriage and family therapists. We're kind of all under a similar umbrella. And then we have psychiatry. That's like a vast difference, because psychiatrists are generally, they're medical doctors.
Yeah.
And the focus is more on the medical management component of it.
Clinical, where they're actually like the proven testing almost type thing, maybe?
Well, psychiatrists generally are doing more assessments. They're doing more medication management, and definitely, like I mentioned, they do get trained on doing counseling as well, but I see that more psychiatrists are leaning towards supporting counselors,
Sure.
psychologists, and other mental health professionals by doing a medication management and then collaborating with a counselor who does ongoing weekly therapy sessions.
Do counselors, does Children First deal with medicine at all?
We don't in-house, but we
Sure.
do often refer out and try to build relationships with psychiatrists so that we're making sure that we're providing the best care for the client.
Yeah, counselor determines maybe a medication would help. Go see this psychologist, go see this doctor.
Right. So a
I see,
counselor
okay.
might talk with the client, and there might be some symptoms that we see are exasperated or some challenges they're having, and we're saying, get an assessment and just see if medication might be a good
Yeah.
other resource to add to this therapy process.
Wow, excellent.
And the reverse of that is also true. Oftentimes, I know our counselors will ask a parent to consider trying counseling first. So that you can see if it's just a behavioral issue versus versus a medical
A little bit
issue.
you go to the counselor and you realize it's a little bit out of their hands. You need some more, you need more help. I'm giggling, kind of laughing when I say that, but that's actually quite serious, and so I want to make sure I'm clear about that. So all of this costs money.
Yes.
Darcy, I know event planning is part of your job, right?
Yes, definitely.
And so what's the next opportunity for our community to get involved in something that would benefit Children First?
Under events, we have something that actually I don't have to put a whole lot of work into. Our
Yeah.
Grand Prairie Police Department, who, we have a new chief, Daniel Cesney. He has served on our board for a few years now.
Okay.
And is very passionate about our work and has gotten, even before he stepped into the role of chief of police, he was assistant chief of police. And he and some of his fellow police officers got together and came up with a phenomenal car show.
Yeah.
And from the very first year, it was a great success. And I believe we're entering the third year now. And it's going to be on Sunday, April 26th, just outside of the Epic.
Okay.
And so great location, very near the police department.
Okay.
So
So-
hopefully we have just gorgeous weather and have, thousands of people show up that day.
You said April 28th.
6th, I think, did I say the 28th?
I don't know. I don't remember. Let's be clear
Let's
there.
be clear, though.
It was
Let me-
April 28th last year.
That's correct.
So-
Sunday's the 26th.
Okay.
And something new this year.
So the
that-
26th.
Yes, April 26th. Something new they're going to have this year is they've got some very cool car show T-shirts. And so that's a way people can they can go purchase a T-shirt while they're out there looking at the cool cars
So I want to comment how cool this car show thing is on so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
First, you have the police who
they deal with a lot of our
they want that's a good point too. So
issues.
they have our police here in Grand Prairie anyway that are promoting community involvement, making sure that they're accessible, making sure that there's if nothing else, an image thing.
and they understand how important good mental health is.
Right.
too.
And our police also do that. So they have a car show where so it's not just, hey, come out and talk to us. They actually find this cool, interesting thing that a lot of people are into.
Uh-huh.
And they don't even, it's not an entry charge. The guys who have the cars, and I'm sorry, I don't have a car. To go see the cars, I don't have to pay money.
Right. The cars that are registered pay an entry fee.
They pay an entry fee.
because they're competing, of
Yeah.
course. And then there's really not a lot that the public has to spend money on, or there's nothing they have to spend money
Right.
on. But there'll be food trucks out there, and there's the T-shirts for sale. And then one very cool feature of it is the car bash.
Yeah.
And the idea is to raise money with it, of course. I forget how many swings you get with
Sure.
a sledgehammer for,
We did that
a few
last year.
bucks. But the idea is also, that it sends the message that, bash the car, not the kid.
Bash the car, not the kid.
But it's a fun way to raise money. We all, our subject is so serious because we do deal with a lot of children and even adults who dealt with child abuse previously and family violence, that we always try to do fun events for a serious cause. And so the police it was just so excellent that they came up with a way that is so inviting to people. There's nothing intimidating about a car show.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at. So the police have this cool event that helps them be involved in the community, grow awareness, talk to people, and then they have this money coming in. Well, what do we do with it? They partner with Children First, and they're the Children First, the beneficiary of that program. So Children First could do absolutely nothing and just receive that, but we actually send out volunteers and our board.
We do. It is actually one of the least laborious of our events, because the police department and their volunteers and the Police Wives Association, they just all come together and they put it together so well. And then we show up and we bring our square readers to collect the money for the car bash, or if there's raffle tickets, to help sell the raffle tickets, and just walk around and visit with people. And if they have questions about Children First, then we have representatives there that can share a little bit more. But mostly it's about just getting the word out that we exist and that help is available. And if you're looking for a good cause to help, that's also an option.
Let's touch on availability to get involved, volunteer.
Oh, okay.
So how much do you want someone listening to this podcast to come and volunteer for your nonprofit center?
Again, it takes a village.
Yeah.
we actually are. One of our focuses, especially of our current president, Reyes Flores.
Oh, Reyes, great.
He is really motivated to build a big volunteer base.
I want to just say something real fast. Being a president of a nonprofit agency sometimes can sound prestigious in the sense that you're the president of this board, right? Well, the president of a nonprofit is volunteering all of his time.
You're the head volunteer, basically.
And not only that, you're the head volunteer, so you can't just show up and I'll help out here and help out there and leave. I mean, there's the president and a few others that it's game on.
And our board is really known as a working board, and so the president is really leading the way, and our board is kind of in the trenches with us.
And so I'm giving a specific shout out to Reyes, because whenever I was done being president, it was tough to find the next guy to step up, and Reyes happily did it and served for 2 good years, right?
Yeah.
And so this is his second run
as
president of the organization.
That's right. He followed Clayton. Clayton served a 2-year term as president, and then Reyes is following up again.
Was it Reyes, Clayton, then Reyes again? Wow.
And he's doing a very good job, and I appreciate his focus on volunteers, because that just as far as you were talking about awareness a minute ago, the more volunteers you have, the more awareness there's going to be. I mean, even if they're just talking to their friends, or their church group or whatever. So we have a tab on our website.
Okay.
That if people would like to go there and sign up, or at least express their interest in being a volunteer. And I apologize, I'm going to have to
the video, I'm going to plug in
the link.
The link.
That would be great.
Yeah. And so childrenfirstinc.org. Childrenfirstinc.org. Okay.
And I believe I have the volunteer page just set up as /volunteer, but we'll make sure the correct link gets on there.
Yeah, and then if you're looking to really dive in, I guarantee you that once we get to know you, there's a spot on that board. Everything is. Dr. Holloway does the work. She heals the kids. Her and
Right.
her team.
Right.
I mean, that's what's happening. But man, they don't work for free, and not in the sense that they just want money, but they're, like you just said, a private practice is $125 an hour, whereas these counselors, we're thinking it's $60 an hour, but they're getting paid less than that potentially.
Oh yes.
And so
definitely.
so all this cool thing that counseling does, it takes a couple dollars.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, we're a nonprofit corporation, and it's very similar to a business corporation,
Yes.
because there's always a service side and a sales side.
Yeah.
And, fundraising is our sales side,
Yeah.
know.
I've seen, I don't want to put down any nonprofit, but I've seen reports about the CEOs of nonprofits making X amount of dollars, and this CEO, there's no overhead costs for this particular nonprofit, so that money goes directly to costing. And so with Children First, you can almost be confused because you've got staff and you've got counselors, and it's like, whoa, all this is very vital to what we're doing here.
Oh, yeah.
And counseling itself is the charity. That is exactly what we're doing.
We could not be a solely volunteer organization.
Not even close.
Right. And, I mean, because you are working with people that have master's degrees, that are still paying off all their training and everything,
Right.
and they do great work. And we know we've been very fortunate, very blessed that a lot of times our LPCs and our LCSWs who are they are qualified to go out and hang their own shingle and have private practice. We've been very fortunate to have a lot of them stay with us for many, many years.
Yeah.
We had one counselor who she was with us nearly 35 years.
Wow.
And she could have easily gone into private practice and made a lot more money, but her heart was at Children First. And it probably is less work for someone to stay with a nonprofit. They don't make as much money, but they don't have to oversee the business side. And if you have that passion for working with the kinds of issues that we see, and we see a broad range, but we also receive lots of referrals from very serious things. We get a lot of CPS referrals and police department referrals and so forth. So, there are people that just have a heart for victimized people.
There's no doubt about it.
So we're very blessed to have had a lot of our people that qualify for private practice to stay with us for quite a while.
I've noticed there's not just, I'm going to say, simply counseling. There are other types of programs put on. Can we touch on that, or Dr. Holloway, is that something?
Are you referring to like the group?
Sure. I know there's just talking to a counselor about whatever is going on, but there's also, you say, okay, group, where it's more of a class that you take.
The psychoeducational classes.
So we do have a batterers intervention and prevention program.
Okay.
And that's a program for anyone who's been identified as a person who has behaviors that appear abusive.
Wow.
So, if we're working with children and we're working with moms, why not also work with partners who might be abusive? Because then you're really touching the whole system.
Yeah.
And so I love that we have a batterers intervention prevention program, and that's for men and for women.
Wow.
And so we have counselors.
Do you have those in the same class? Or are
No,
separate?
they have separate classes.
Interesting.
And so on separate days, and we have counselors who are designated just for that, and they have a curriculum that they use, the Duluth model, that really helps them kind of hone in on those values and beliefs that might lead to controlling and abusive type behaviors. Yeah.
Now, do you find those from the counseling sessions? Are they referred in from outside? Are they voluntarily? All the above?
Right, all of the above, yeah.
Wow.
Oftentimes they're referred in from outside.
Okay.
Someone may have had some criminal legal issue and they're referred from outside. And they are self-referrals as well. So
Yeah. So we're not just counseling kids. We're touching a wide spectrum there on the services.
We're trying to be very holistic, but we probably should make clear that we do not counsel victims and perpetrators in the same session.
Sure.
You know, they're working on their issues separately.
And one or both of you guys, let's make clear about HIPAA and privacy here. I mean, I know we're talking about some pretty personal things with folks, and even just saying the word battery, battery and abuse is almost makes you tremble a little bit. So, just real quick, I mean, I don't know HIPAA rules, but that's part of
actually the code of conduct or the code of ethics for our licensed practitioners is every bit as stringent as HIPAA.
Okay.
And so I'm going to let Dr. Holloway answer the rest of that.
yeah, one of the main things that I think, like we were talking about before, when it comes to friends versus counseling, is that there are laws that say, as counselors, we have to keep these relationships confidential, with a few exceptions.
Yeah.
You know, abuse or neglect of a child or a disabled person. But
well, you're talking about if somebody's in fear of danger.
Right. Yes. That's a person who is, most vulnerable.
Okay.
There's rules that say we need to reach out and get them support. But outside of that, the counseling room has to be kept confidential so that people feel like this is a safe space where I can explore whatever issue that I have.
Yeah.
And there are legal ramifications. We, as counselors, can be sued and we could be taken to court, or our license can be taken away if we share information outside of what the law says we can.
Yeah, so my friend still makes fun of me for peeing my pants in 7th grade. Like my counselor doesn't. Is that kind of what we're getting at?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that a personal reference, Cole?
Yeah, right. I'm kidding. I want to touch on another fundraising opportunity because I enjoy. I mean, it's almost like you can almost make it a social. Well, it is. A lot of it's a social event. One's golf, but I'd like to touch on the Little Lunch of Hope.
Yeah.
I want to start off. It used to be Little Lunch of Horrors.
Yeah.
And with counseling and kind of healing, we wanted to kind of make that change a little bit. But that's because it's around Halloween.
Yes. Yeah. And I like to call it our famously fun event. I really think it is the most fun nonprofit event in Grand Prairie.
I get that comment.
And but it is for such a serious subject. And both of our main fundraisers are Golfin', which happens in June, and our Little Lunch of Hope that is always sometimes it falls on Halloween, but it's usually the Wednesday before
Halloween.
And they've both been around over 25 years now.
Wow.
And and people are so faithful to come out every year, and I know they come out to Little Lunch of Hope because it is just a blast. I mean, it really is.
I can recall there were times where people didn't dress up as much, right? Like, a few of the celebrity waiters that was the one reason we asked them to be celebrity waiters, so they would dress up.
Right. Yeah, we have much more participation.
But I feel like the last 3 or 4 years minimum, I mean, it's just like everybody in the audience has some type of costume on. So literally every year, I know I have a costume party to go to.
Right. It's getting more and more fun every year. It's like, some events kind of run their course and kind of die out, over time. And ours is just gaining steam. And so I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. And I'll share it here at the end of this video, but it's a Little Lunch of Hope every year. All the proceeds go to Children First and the counseling that's getting done there.
Right.
Does great work. It's just simply fun event. The auctioneer, Jeff Copeland.
Oh, he's hilarious.
He does the golf fun as well, and he just rolls with it. And if you've never heard it, I bet you he's doing enough auctions now, or you could probably even Google some of his stuff. But
Big Daddy Auctions, or is that what it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Big Daddy's his
Big Daddy Auctions
company name now. So.
Yeah, Big Daddy Auctions, and so we have him.
He's done the Cattle Barons Ball. He's traveled all over the
Right.
country now, but all started with him doing the
Stuff here in-
nonprofit
here in Grand
auctions
Prairie.
here in Grand Prairie.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, hey, I don't want to press this too much. We sound like I've got some really good information. I'm a big fan of Children First, so I'd like
Thank
to,
you.
if you guys would consider coming back to this again.
Oh, absolutely.
Love to.
Yeah.
We'll figure out the time, but I mean, I think this is quality stuff. So anyway, thanks again.
Thank
see
you,
guys.
Cole.
Thank you for having us.
Alrighty.